Louis Tomlinson's Sunny with a Sprinkle of Chaos third album is coming. And if you're anything like me, you're excited. As of filming, we haven't been told a date yet, but with the inevitable passing of time, we're getting closer every second. And he said it himself.
I've actually finished the next record already. By definition, this might be the last Faith in the Future.
So as a longtime One Direction fan, Louis fan, and marketing nerd, I thought, why not talk about what I hope LT3 is gonna be? From the things I loved in his past eras, to the musical twists I'm hoping for, to the way that I hope they're gonna do the promo for the album, the marketing challenges, and my personal biased fangirl wish list for the album. Because albums aren't just music, they're eras. And this is Louis' chance to really refine who he is as an artist. Oh, and please let me know in the comments what you're hoping for LT3. But before we can look ahead for what I think LT3 could be, then let's take a second to look back at his previous album drops and what worked really well back then. When looking at his first two albums, they're in many ways so similar, but so different at the same time. What they do have in common, which I think is so important, is his songwriting, which in my opinion is my favorite songwriting style of any of the 1D boys. Like the balance between the imagery but also keeping things quite candid and the sincerity that he writes with. But at the same time, the albums are also so different. Because his first album, I think the goal for him, as I think was with a lot of the other One Direction boys with their first albums, was to explore their sound and figure out who they are as solo artists. And I think a lot of the songs that ended up on their first albums were songs that they maybe wrote in the band that they didn't feel like they could or wanted to release through the band. So I feel like their first albums were a mix of songs that they've had for a long time and songs that they wrote for the album. And I think due to that, Walls as an album felt really authentic and raw and important in its own way. And I think it also appealed really well to the One Direction fans who had known Louis for years, who wanted to see who Louis was as a solo artist, and to make the One Direction fans feel like they wanted to stay in the Louis fandom too. Because when you look at it from a, One Direction fan perspective, this wasn't Louis' first album, this was basically his sixth album. So if you look at it as a, the sixth album, then you can afford to take more creative risks because you've already had the hype. So I feel like for Louis, this was an album that was more for himself and for his artistry and creativity and to try to see who he wants to be as a musician. And then on the contrary, you have Faith in the Future, which is a way more evolved and confident album. Also in the songwriting, but specifically in the genre and the tempo of the songs. Because as he said in interviews, he wanted the songs on Faith in the Future to be songs that were really, really good live. Because he realized when he was touring Walls that the songs on the album, while they were good songs, they weren't necessarily made to be performed at a show at that size. And we see this confidence and this evolution with songs like Written All Over Your Face or Silver Tongues that are truly 10 times better live than they are in the album. And they're really good on the album too, but when you're at the show, these songs truly just sing. And each album is part of bringing Louis Tomlinson, the artist's identity to life. If his first album gave him brand awareness, then the second album gave him credibility. And looking back promo-wise, there are a couple of things that I think worked really well. I love the idea of the listening parties. Not that I was actually listening most of the time because I was busy, but I loved the information that Louis Tomlinson HQ gave about each song as, they progressed in the listening party. I think anything that makes songs feel more personal is a really, really good thing to do. Second of all, I love when they share fan art. I think it's one of the really easy but impactful things that you can do as a social media manager for an artist, especially the size of fandom that Louis has. As I've said in my fan art video, unless it's not up yet, but it will be, fan art is such a secret superpower for fandoms. And I think utilizing it is a no-brainer. Also, sharing other fans' art and giving them credit, obviously, encourages other fans to also create, and suddenly, you have a lot of hype building and a lot of organic hype building. I also love when they did pop-up stores or album signings. It just generates a good buzz around the album and that this is, a serious promo. And I think the fact that it's, out in the physical world, that you're interacting with Louis and the brand of Louis Tomlinson, I think is really important as well because it makes you feel closer to him and to the album and to the music. And yeah, obviously meeting him at an album signing or something like that, that's also really cool. There's just so many like cute moments that have come from like the album signings. My favorite one is the one where he asked the fan what their least favorite song on the album was.
What's your favorite song on the album?
Walls.
Are you going to be brave enough to tell me your least favorite?
Perfect now.
Fucking yes.
No, why'd you...
Respect, you didn't even hesitate.
Why
You didn't even hesitate. I like that shit.
That was like... yeah. Why, you're not gonna answer that?
There's so many others where that came from, and I think it's a really nice way to kind of feel Louis Tomlinson's personality and to kind of connect with him on like an emotional, like person to person level and really foster the parasocial relationships too. Then I also really liked how considered the Faith in the Future promo came across. It felt like everything was well planned, well scheduled, well executed, like there was a good team who was passionate about this rollout of an album. The branding was cohesive, and as a fan, it felt like a really nice experience. Oh, and then I love the way that he does the tours. Most artists will visit, you know, the top 5 or top 10 European cities and then call it a European tour. Louis is just like one of those few artists who really cares about his fans to a level where he's like, of course I'll go to the Eastern European countries that most artists never go to, even if they don't make that much money on those tour stops specifically. So those two albums are, you know, the baseline that we're going from today. But of course it is an album. So here's what I think it's gonna be like musically. I think the overall genre is going to be similar, but I do think he could lean a little bit more pop rock to attract a little bit more of the mainstream. And I think if the assumption is that this album is meant to get Louis Tomlinson a little bit more into the mainstream, then I do think that it would be a smart decision to make it a little bit more poppy to really encourage radio play. Obviously still respecting his trademark sound of, you know, electric guitars and live drums, but I do suspect a little bit more pop. And then again, like sunny with a sprinkle of chaos, as he described it, it does like give me like a more poppy vibe. I don't know why, but it just does. Lyrics wise, I do think we're gonna see the same level of songwriting and artistry in that sense, because what I think Louis is really good at is writing candidly, but then also having a lot of imagery and writing things that could have double meanings or triple meanings. It's like when you listen to the song the first time, you're like, oh, this is a nice song. But then if you really listen to it, you're like, oh my god, this is amazing. All this time for me was that, like, at the beginning, I think you can see in one of my like ranking videos that I did years ago, I was like, this is not doing a lot for me. I like it, but it's not my favorite. But now it's actually one of my favorites because I've really had time for it to like marinate. That sounds so bad. I feel like his songs just age really well. And his sincerity and storytelling is what creates this brand loyalty and fosters this parasocial relationship between him and us. And I feel like his songwriting is his secret weapon. Next, I don't think we're gonna see any collabs on it because I think his songs are quite personal to him. And while he has done collabs before with BB Rexa, with Steve Aoki, all of that, I do think that this album is just gonna be him. Then next, I would hope that he feels more confident in his voice and his vocal ability in a way that we're gonna get a lot more high notes or like vocal runs. I'm also a sucker for vocal runs, so like sometimes I'll just like add vocal runs to anything I'm listening to, but specifically some of the Louis Tomlinson songs, I'm like, if he had done this one vocal run, the fandom would have combusted. But I also know that music can be really good, but if it doesn't have good promo, then even a really good song can feel like a flop. So here's what I hope LT3's promo looks like. First of all, I would love some more teasers or Easter eggs. Like, I'm not saying full, you know, Taylor Swift mastermind insanity, but I do think like making fans work for it a little bit is kind of fun. Like decoding track lists, hinting at things, more importantly, letting fans know that you're hinting at things. Cause like, if the fans don't know that they have to look, they're not gonna look. As of right now, we have the question mark symbol, but we don't know if it's actually relevant for the album or not, but if the album is called Why, then I fear we may need some more difficult Easter eggs in the future. Also in his merch, there's now sunflowers, which we also know that he registered a song called Sunflowers. So I feel like that's connected, but maybe a first single or something. Basically what I'm trying to say is we love Easter eggs, we love puzzles, we love working a little bit for things. Don't make it too chaotic where it's exhausting, but like a little bit of a challenge is always good because it gets fans interacting, fans buzzing, fans excited, and is really good for building hype. Next, I'd obviously love a new color scheme for the era. For Walls, I believe we had black and white, which was quite basic. And for Faith in the Future, we had the black and the burnt orangey red. While the burnt orangey red suited the era, I feel like I'm kind of over it. For the new album, I'd personally love like a blue or like a multicolor, even like a yellow, like a sunshine yellow. I think that could be fun. And again, I would love a solid, well-planned, well-structured, well-executed album rollout. To be honest, if waiting 6 more months for the album to finally drop in order for the rollout to be fully executed and well done, then I would do that. Because I think if you're releasing an album every 3 years, that release has to be so well done in order for fans to feel excited about it and for fans to enjoy it as much as possible and want to stick around in between releases. Then I also hope that the album has a solid identity and almost a theme. Not necessarily as themed as Niles the Show, but something kind of in that direction, with a well-defined and intentional vibe. And then obviously matching the tour and the stage design with that vibe or that theme or that identity, I think would be really, really good. Then obviously also the music videos, I want them to be fully well done. As I said in my ranking Harry Styles music videos, I love when a music video, first of all, enhances the song and doesn't distract or detract from the song, but also if the video can stand on its own. Like if there's a good concept, a lot of effort put into it, and also if there's a really good storyline in the video itself. And then also, I would love for the merch to be really good, but I feel like Louis has always been really good at merch, and the design of the merch, it doesn't look half-assed like some of the other merch items out there. I talked about it in my merch rant video because merch has just become really lazy. I hope that they would do maybe on top of the existing merch, they would do a collab between Louis Tomlinson, the musician's merch, but also Louis Tomlinson, his own brand 28, if they did like maybe a little bit pricier merch collection on top of the existing merch collection. I feel like that could be a really good, partnership between the two. Just a thought. And while the music and the promo is really important, I also think it's really nice to take a step back and look at the cultural landscape and specifically the marketing landscape that Louis is navigating, specifically balancing longtime fans with potential new fans. As a marketing nerd, I find that Louis Tomlinson, from, a marketing and culture point of view, is in a really interesting yet challenging position. Because I gotta be honest, right now as of filming, his marketing efforts, or lack thereof, confuse me a little bit. Because it feels to me like they can't really decide whether they want to keep the existing fans that have grown with him that are a little bit older, or whether they want to capture new and a lot younger fans. And obviously they can have both, but they need to be smart with the way that they're doing it. Because currently I can't quite figure out what their marketing strategy is, but I do hope that they have a solid one and that it's going to be so crystal clear at some point. Okay, enough marketing talk. Let's talk about my unrealistic fangirl wish list for the album. Things that I really want to happen, but are maybe a reach. First of all, Louis playing the guitar on stage. As I've said before, Louis has been teasing us for years with a guitar, so at this point, I'm not even gonna get my hopes up. That's why it's in this section of the video and not in the what I think we're gonna get musically or promo-wise from Louis. This is here because I don't know if we're gonna get it, but I'll take like any song, just one song, even if it's an interlude. I'll take any guitar Louis on stage. Second of all, I would love if they did acoustic versions of some of the songs. You can't blame a girl for loving a ballad. I'll take any ballad I can get, any stripped down version, any acoustic version, I'll take it. I'll cherish it, but I don't think we're gonna get it. But as long as there's a ballad on the album or two, I'll also take that. I just love an acoustic version because you really get to appreciate the voice and the melody of the song and the lyrics of the song, and I really, really want it. Okay? Next, more creative merch. And I know I talked about merch earlier, but that was like in general, Louis' merch is great, blah, 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 keep doing great merch. But what I'm talking about is specifically like more creative merch. Like, yes, a hoodie and a t-shirt and a cap and a keychain is fine, but I would love for the merch to actually be more unique. if he is playing guitar on stage, then maybe sell guitar picks in the merch booth. Or for example, from Harry's last tour, I would have loved if they had for, Keep Driving, they had the, the car air fresheners with like different lyrics from the song, and air freshener with like choke her with a sea view, or like, that could have been so fun. I just want merch that is more connected to a specific song on the album and not just a t-shirt. Unless the song mentions a t-shirt, in which case, perfect opportunity to sell a t-shirt. Like they could have done a Chicago jumper and sold it. And they didn't even have to put Chicago on it, maybe a little bit on the back or the sleeve, but they could have sold it as Louis' Chicago jumper. Just being creative and relating merch to specific songs in a way that is more creative than t-shirts and hoodies, And then I do want a deluxe version of whatever album the third album is. Because, like, imagine if we hadn't gotten Faith in the Future Deluxe. We wouldn't have had the best song on the album, which is Holding On to Heartache. Obviously. If you disagree, you're wrong. And then lastly, I would love more behind the scenes footage, specifically of the songwriting and the production. As a music producer, songwriting nerd, I love the videos where the producers break down the songs, or the songwriters talk about how they wrote the song or why they wrote the song. I would love Louis on like the Genius lyrics breakdown thing. Like I would love just getting to know why the songs were done the way they were, like the challenges with producing the songs, the nerdy artistry of it all. Think like the behind the scenes of Billie Eilish and Phineas writing some of the earlier Billie Eilish songs. And I think it could be so beneficial for people and how they connect to the album and to the song and how much they value the album and the song. All of this to say, I'm excited for LT3. And if you've made it this far into the video, then safe to say you are too. I hope we'll get to see an even better era with more to give, more to analyze, more to react to, and an album that gets a proper rollout and is full of emotion and creativity. And with that, thank you for making it to the end of this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, let me know your thoughts below, and have a nice day, have a nice week, and I'll see you again in my next video. Bye!